Welcome to our panel today. We're talking about cultivating resilience and preparing for fire season. Today we're talking about how to prepare your physical health. Before we go into it, I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Jenny Harrow, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of Integrative Healers Action Network. We're a disaster response nonprofit that organizes integrative health and medicine practitioners to deploy to major disasters throughout the state of California. I've been taking big, deep breaths over here as our community in Sonoma County is currently navigating multiple fires. Our neighbors to the east in Napa and Lake County are also navigating multiple fires. So our region up here in the North Bay has a total of over, last I saw, about 120,000 acres and counting currently burning. So several thousand people in our community have already evacuated their homes. IHAN is currently navigating where the Red Cross shelters are, and we're getting ready to set up our emergency integrative health clinics as soon as we can determine a safe location where many residents and first responders will be taking refuge. So taking this opportunity to invite you, our viewers who are interested in getting involved either as a volunteer or a donor in what we're doing with fire response and bringing integrative health to the front lines of this type of situation, please visit our website at integrativehealersactionnetwork.org. And yeah, just wanted to introduce our panel. You know, this is the third in a series of 4 panels that we had planned a while ago, and we planned it specifically for August about fire prep because we thought, you know, fire season the last couple of years in our community has typically started in October. So we thought August would be a great time to talk about fire preparation. And, you know, starting on Sunday, we had an unprecedented dry lightning storm throughout the state of California, which has been in the middle of what has been also an unprecedented heat wave throughout the state. And so it has led to many, many fires that have started all throughout the state, from here in Northern California to the central parts and in Southern California as well. And so, you know, it's a challenging time right now. As we've been navigating the fires, there's been rolling blackouts. You know, my power just came back on in the middle of the night last night. And so we're thinking the power should continue to stay on during this panel, but if there's any technical difficulties, that's why we've just been experiencing that here in our community. You know, and it's also a lot of people in our community have started school this week, and we're still navigating the challenges of COVID. And, you know, it's been a lot, but, you know, we're really grateful for our panel today. And I'm really personally excited to have our practitioners share some really beneficial tips and tools on how to strengthen your physical health, not only before a fire, but what we're experiencing right now during a wildfire. And what these challenging times of disaster show us is the importance of integrative health and medicine, because as we know, when we feel emotional or mental stress or anguish, it also impacts our physical health and vice versa. You know, we're complex beings. And so as we're talking today about physical health, we're definitely going to be bringing in the ways to nourish your mental and spiritual health, because it's all connected. Before I introduce our panelists, I'd like to invite you, our viewers, to please share your questions with us throughout this panel discussion. You can comment directly on this Facebook Live, and since this Facebook Live is likely being shared on multiple pages, you can also use Facebook Messenger to send a direct message to our Facebook Integrative Healers Action Network to ensure that we see your questions, and we'll be sharing them with our panel throughout the discussion, and especially at the end. All right, and also want to take the opportunity to invite you to view our previous 2 panels. They're live on our website. They're talking about how to prepare your home and community for fire season, and it's also a segment on how to really be nourishing your mental health and emotional health during a disaster. So some really great resources to check out there as well. All right, so let me take this opportunity to introduce our panelists before we dive into this discussion. I'd love to start off with Dr. Jun Riegle, who is the co-founder and medical director of Integrative Healers Action Network. Dr. Jun Riegle is also a licensed naturopathic physician. She has a degree from Bastyr University. She carries advanced certification and training in women's health and fertility, biofeedback, and traditional medicine practices. She's the owner of Wild Oak Medicine in Santa Rosa, California. And as IHAN continues to grow, Dr. Riegle enjoys continuing to learn and teach about trauma-informed disaster care with integrative medicine. And so great to have you here, Jen. We're so excited to have you be able to share what we've been doing at IHAN and preparing our volunteers and what we do in our clinics and resources for all of our viewers out there on how to strengthen their physical health right now. So welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
All right. And now I'm really excited to introduce you to Jun Lee. Jun is a registered nurse with over 10 years of experience in the hospital, home care, and health advisory setting in her hometown of Philadelphia, as well as a majority of time in San Francisco. She is the founder of Tao Yoga Collective, a Yoga Alliance accredited school, and has been leading 200 and 300-hour yoga teacher training certifications and retreats in Costa Rica and Italy since 2013. In 2017, she became an official Wim Hof method instructor, completing the training with Wim atop the snowy mountains of Colorado. Jun's mission is to help people live healthier and happier lives by utilizing practices that cultivate the connection to their own innate strength, guidance, and feeling of aliveness. Jun currently offers live stream yoga and guided breathwork classes twice a week from her residence in Taos, New Mexico. Jun, so great to have you here. Thank you so much for tuning in from Taos and bringing some of that magical mountain energy of the town that I love so much. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jenny.
And next, I'd love to introduce you to Rose DeNicola. Rose is a veteran IHAN volunteer. She has been with IHAN since our very first response in 2017 and has been volunteering in every single response we've had, from going up to Chico after the campfire in Paradise. And it was a big part of our last response in our community during the 2019 Kincaid fire. And Rose is also our massage therapist and ambassador, and so we're so grateful for her. She's a certified massage therapist who is passionate about working with her community to heal our relationships with our bodies and nature. Rose believes that integrative health services are incredibly powerful and important, especially during times of crisis. She is proud to support the Integrative Healers Action Network with this mission. Currently, she has a private massage practice at Flourish Integrative Health in Santa Rosa. In addition to this, Rose is a certified yoga and Qigong teacher and a student of trauma-informed integrative health. So thank you, Rose, for being here. So grateful for you and your participation in IHAN and all that you've brought to our organization.
Thank you, Jenny.
All right, so before we dive into the questions that we have prepared, I wanted to hand it off to Jen to give a moment just to talk about how we can orient to this situation that we're currently navigating with the wildfires here in Sonoma County and throughout the state, and talk a little bit about regulation and how to orient to what's happening. So love to hand it off to you, Jen.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks for those awesome introductions. So yesterday morning, I was sitting in my meditation spot and closed my eyes and my brain was so active, more than normal. And just recognize, sitting there and having been through this several times, that nervous system activity is something that my body is meant to be doing right now. We're supposed to be vigilant, and we want it to be at a level that we're able to sleep at night, hopefully still, and that we're able to think throughout the day. And it got me thinking, after my meditation practice, or kind of during it, because my mind was, kind of going wild. I kept bringing it back, that really what I needed in that moment, more than meditation actually, was stabilization. And so this is a concept that we've learned a lot about over the last several years doing trauma and disaster work, that if you think about it, if you're in the midst of a community that's experiencing fire and you're waiting right now to hear whether in every moment you need to evacuate, or you're currently evacuated and you're waiting to hear if your home is okay, etc., or even if you're outside the area and you're worrying about your loved ones that might be in an area of disaster, there's a vigilance and nervous system activity that's entirely appropriate, especially if you're here and you're getting yourself ready. What we want to do is make that something that is that we can function with still. Yeah. So in that moment in my meditation, I started using some of my favorite stabilization practices. And one of my favorite ones is orientation. So in this idea of orientation, and some of these principles come from an amazing partner of ours, the Somatic Experiencing Trauma Institute. So you can check them out too. And they have a model that explains some more about this. One of the things that I love doing from that model is orientation. Orientation is about orienting to things in your current environment, where you're sitting right now, that are safe or neutral. And so in my home, I was doing something a little bit different, but as we're sitting here now, if we want to just take a moment to orient to what's in our environment. So I invite you to just allow your eyes to settle on something in your environment that they want to settle on, that it feels okay or good to look at. So I'm just looking at a leaf right now on a plant in my office, and just bringing some curiosity to that and exploring it with my eyes a little. There's these beautiful little detail lines that I can see, and the shape of it and vibrancy of the color is just gorgeous. It's curious how the plant is shaped and how it's grown too. So just bringing my curiosity to that place, and that's something that maybe you can do in your environment as well. And then maybe orienting to sound. You may hear in my environment right now, I hear an air purifier, which I'm incredibly grateful to have. Or orienting to touch. I feel a solid seat under me, my feet on the floor. My arms are resting on the desk. My hands I can feel folded together. So just taking that moment to become oriented to your current environment, and specifically wanting to orient yourself to things that are safe or neutral in your current environment. And so another technique that I used in the last couple of days as well that was really helpful for me, again, this was like real life. I was headed to an appointment and I was walking so fast. This was 2 days ago. Fires had just started. I was like booking it to this appointment. I wasn't late. There was nothing happening. And I realized, like 5 steps into this, like booking it from my car to the door, that I was moving really quickly. And so to stop and intentionally move slowly can really calm our nervous system down a little bit. And it might sound silly or feel silly in the moment, like I was walking way slower than what normally people walk down the street, but it felt really good to my nervous system. It gives visceral feedback to your body that you're not in a panic state, that things are okay where you're currently at. And, we can hold both of those. Both of those can be true. We can have gone through a trauma just recently, or we can be waiting for our potential possibility of having to evacuate our home. And in this very moment, we can still orient to things that are still safe in our environment. Is our body safe now? And so those are the things that help us kind of come back to center. It's not always, and we found this a lot in our work, it's not always appropriate during disaster to have ourselves be brought down into this deep relaxation state. Sometimes it can send us into a little bit of a catatonic type place. We don't have to always be deeply relaxed. What can be just as helpful is these stabilization practices. And like I said, you can check out, maybe we can post that too on our Facebook Live here, the scope model. And that scope model from SETI is a really, really awesome way. And there are other ways that we can help just bring ourselves and our nervous system to a level where we're functioning.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen. I am personally very grateful to take that moment for stabilization and orientation, because I mean, like many in our community, it's getting the nixles on our phone and just trying to figure out like, where is the fire moving, and how can we find some safety in this time of chaos. And so so thank you so much for sharing that. And I love what the Somatic Experiencing Trauma Institute has put together with the scope model of like the moving really slow like a tiger, and like just feeling our body melt into the earth a little bit more, and how nourishing and calming that can be. So thank you.
I think it's important, to just recognize that we're not abnormal for feeling activated right now. And that there's also ways that if we're getting a little too activated and we're not able to function well, that we can help bring ourselves down. But we just want to make sure as a community and as providers, I think about it too, that we're not pathologizing that, because our nervous system's job is to do that right now.
Totally. It's what keeps us safe and oriented to dangers, is the beauty of the nervous system, and then being able to use these tools to work in partnership with it, so that when we're overactivated, we can come back down. So awesome. Well, I'd love to give some more space to talk about how different physical symptoms can be coming up, whether it's during fire, whether we're talking about respiratory issues, or chronic pain due to stress, or chronic pain due to needing to evacuate your home and possibly sleeping in a car or a cot in a shelter, things like that. So I'd love to just hear from all of our panelists, in your experience, either in your private practice, or working with clients and your classes, or what you've seen in your experience doing disaster response, either with IHAN or in other experiences. What you see, like what's common, what's typical, like Jen said, not to pathologize, but like to just see what we're noticing, like, and just to kind of normalize that this is something that comes up as some physical health symptoms. So June, would love to start with you and hear about your experience as a nurse, what you've seen in these types of situations of disaster, or other types of acute trauma, and then what you've seen in your practice as a yoga instructor and a Wim Hof breathwork instructor. What some things you've noticed?
So I love what you said, Dr. Jen, about the nervous system. I totally agree. I would say what I see the most in my patients, in my students, it's that like overstimulated nervous system. And then with that comes like the shallow breathing, right? And um, that's just something that, happens with, disasters and emergencies, and that's fine. But to stay in that state, it can be really detrimental. So in the hospitals or in the nursing homes, I see like low oxygen saturations, right? So people aren't taking deep breaths. And in fact, they're really tight in their necks and shoulders and ribs and back. I'm sure you see it as a massage therapist, like, they're just really tight in their breathing area, right? Like the thorax and everything. So yeah, so as a yoga teacher, that's what I see. As a nurse, that's what I see. So so I'm really passionate about getting people to become aware of their breaths, right? Because like Dr. Jen said, like, you can just, in that moment, you can just connect with your senses, connect with your surroundings, because it's going to be in the moment. And in the moment, your breath is also there. And so I love that breath work, something that I'm really passionate about. It's something that's for free, and something that you can do as soon as you wake up. If you have 5 minutes in your day, if you have like a 30-minute break for lunch or whatever, you can do it. And I hope you have access to clean air. But if you do have clean air in your room, if you have air purifier, if you're able to get somewhere that's not very smoky, then breath work. It doesn't have to be so intense like the Wim Hof method breathing. I mean, that's also great practice, but you can also just stop and just just inhale through the nose, take a deep breath, hold, exhale through the mouth. And that's really like the remote control for your nervous system, so really just in that moment, it's not inappropriate for you to be a little stressed or overstimulated, but you can also put the phone down, put the news down for a moment and just kind of breathe and just, again, like Dr. Jen said, just come back to center, get that nervous system regulated. Because yes, it is your nervous system's job to, be stimulated with you, but then, are you able to come back to baseline? Are you able to rein it back in and have control of your body and your state? Because we really have that power, and so regardless of the external circumstances, regardless of the state of, everything going on, it's like, what can you do? You have control of your breath. Really, truly, it's like you can just really, okay, I have my breath right now. I'm just going to focus on my breath. Even to a count of 10, just breathe, 10 times a deep breath in. And then if you're just in your chair, you can just kind of like do some side stretches, just like get those rib cages open, those intercostal muscles open, and like do some twists, like these really simple things. It can really make a huge difference to your state. So yeah, so that's what I'm noticing, that overstimulated nervous system, kind of some tension in their neck, shoulders, the ribs, and those breathing muscles is just underutilized. And in the state that we find ourselves in, it's just, yeah. So that, I would say I see that the most. And then I think Dr. Jen touched on this too, is like your sleep. I'm noticing a lot of people complaining about not falling asleep early, or like finding themselves like staying up super late, just because they're, reading or, doing something, and maybe working from home, and so not getting to sleep early enough and not sleeping deep enough, and, maybe waking up throughout the night. And I've heard that a lot. And before you reach for some, Ambien or whatever, you can always, the breath work, it wakes you up in the morning, and it gives you energy. But it also, I was just teaching my parents when I was visiting them, this deep breath work, the Wim Hof method breathing. It also helps you go to sleep at night. So my parents were saying, like, the next morning, they're so like bright and sparkly. They're like, wow, we slept so good last night. And I'm like, it was a breath work, it's like, because it really gets that nervous system to calm down. It gets that nervous system to like, regulate from maybe being overstimulated all day, and just kind of lets you clear your mind, you know, and let go of what has happened in the day, you know, and prepares you for the next day for whatever may come. So yeah, so, you know, those deep breaths, a breathing practice maybe, or even just in the moment, 10 deep breaths, getting those accessory muscles and those breathing muscles kind of mobilized. Like, you don't have to do even a full yoga practice. You can just do a few cat cows, you know, a few a few twists, a few side stretches, and yeah, I think that would, if I could share one thing, it would be just those few tips, is just help you regulate and breathe better.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's been one of the themes throughout all of our panel discussions that we've had the last 3 weeks is, you know, taking these little tiny steps, and that we don't have to do it all. We don't have to have like a 30-minute breath work practice or an hour-long yoga session, you know, I mean, where it's, I mean, I know, you know, I've already referenced this a few weeks ago, but our teacher, June, our teacher's referenced, you know, the Tiny Habits book by BJ Fogg, which is just like small incremental steps. And it's about the direction that we're moving towards, not that we rush to get to like extreme relaxation or regulation, but that if we could take just a few breaths, you know, I love that. Like, can we orient to taking 10 breaths in the moment, or doing a few side stretches in our chair, and, you know, being conscious of our media consumption, especially at night. I mean, been feeling that big time the last few days as we've been getting the alerts on our phone with the fires, and I get to a point in the evening where it's like, have to disconnect, like, you know, orient to safety as much as possible and assess the situation, and then allow our bodies to rest, and our minds and spirits to rest as well. So thank you for sharing all of that. And, you know, initially when we were putting this panel together, I thought of you with the Wim Hof method, because I've been able to take some classes with you through your virtual yoga, and you've been able to share such wonderful tools through that. And thinking about everything you've shared with the Wim Hof method in strengthening our respiratory health during this time of COVID-19. And then, you know, you bring in the challenge of smoke exposure during wildfires. And so we'll have some time as we move throughout this panel to do a little bit of demonstration for our viewers at home. But I'm grateful that you incorporated some smaller versions of the Wim Hof as well. If we don't have the space to go into that full practice, that we could take those tiny steps. So thank you. Rose, I'd love to hear from you. June mentioned, you know, that she's seen, you know, the physical tension in people's necks and shoulders. I know that's where I hold a lot of my stress and in those parts of my body. And so would love to hear from you about what you've noticed, you know, in your time volunteering at the Red Cross shelters with iHand these last 3 years, but also what you've been seeing in your private practice as a massage therapist, and the other practices that you share with your clients. You know, what are some common symptoms that have been coming up with COVID and with wildfires?
Yeah, there's a lot coming up these days. And I love what June shared about breath work and just like starting to expand in the whole torso to open space for the breath. Very, very helpful. And always has been so supportive for clients. And I see that a lot. And specifically with wildfires, like you said, breath can be really hard. I feel when it's smoky out, we don't want to breathe, and there's not only the tension of stress that's keeping our breath restricted, but the air itself doesn't feel safe to breathe. And I've seen that again with COVID, everyone wearing masks. It's hard to have a client take a deep breath when they're on the table with a mask. And that feels so important to like bring more awareness to the breath when it's being so constricted. And within that, I see a lot of, especially with the wildfires, congestion in the sinuses, and I'll go into more detail about things you can do for yourself to support that. And then just congestion in the lymph system overall. One thing I've seen a lot with the fires is, like you said, Jenny, people sleeping in their cars, people's legs and feet getting swollen overnight because they're lower. That is a very common thing that will happen when people are evacuated. Cots are horribly uncomfortable, and people's whole, not only is there the tension of the stress, but their body is just in this very uncomfortable bed in a very loud space, and sleep becomes even harder. And so just doing really simple, gentle movements with the body can really help unwind that, and can help the lymph flow. It flows in a very gentle, subtle way. So just doing little gentle circles of your joints can help open space for movement to flow, whether it's your ankles or your knees or your hips. And just making sure you're bringing some of that gentleness and movement and flow into your body when there's so much holding. Very important for sure. And then to go back to the sinuses and like headaches. Headaches are really common during this time. Stress, everything builds in the head, especially, and releasing the sinuses will be helpful for that. And also grounding down into the feet. A basic principle of Chinese medicine with headaches is to work with the feet to move the energy from the head down. And working with the feet can also be really helpful for sleep. So that's another really big piece, giving yourself or your partner or family member, friend, whoever it is, a foot massage before bed is a nice way to get ready for sleep, have a little sleep routine so you're not being stimulated by the phone and the alerts and the am I prepared enough? Is my bag ready if I need to leave in the middle of the night? I've been noticing that for myself these nights. Just prepping right before sleep and being like, oh, I need something to bring myself back in to actually go to sleep without thinking about everything in my evacuation bag. So giving your body some love before sleep is a really great way to do that through self-massage. And other things that I've seen or I'm seeing now, I think that pretty much that covers the main things. Oh, other than like chronic pain, like if someone has any issue, any surgeries, any past, present issue of chronic pain, they just get exasperated so much during these times. The body will hold tension and stress where it's used to holding tension and stress, and usually where that surgery or injury has happened in the body, that's where it will go. So being extra gentle with that area of your body, moving slowly when you have to leave your home, if you have to leave your home, so you don't get injured in the process, which is hard, to take a deep breath and then move a little slower, like Jen was sharing. Really helpful during those times. Yeah.
Thank you, Rose. I love that you brought up and used the language of gentleness. That's such a beautiful way to describe and just kind of orient to these types of situations, of like, I think sometimes our reactive self can be like wanting to move quickly, like you said, or like there's this extra tension. And so just even to hear that word, like to move gently, to orient gently, to be gentle with yourself, is helpful. And and we just had a viewer comment that as an asthmatic, she uses breath work during an attack, which creates control for her. And so I think that really highlights what you all have shared so far about, the power of the breath, and of like coming into the space that not only physically can help relieve, tensions and the acute situation of having an asthma attack, but emotionally and mentally, I love that she shared that it helps create control, when we're able to work in partnership with our body. And the breath is such a powerful tool and vehicle for working in partnership. And so love how that really highlights and demonstrates the integrative nature of our beings and our bodies. So Jen, would love to hear from you. You know, I know you see a lot of patients during fires and after fires, and you know, seeing patients at our clinics that we set up during our responses. So what are some common experiences and symptoms that you've seen in your patients?
Yeah, first I just want to say I'm so grateful for like the wisdom that comes from this. I'm just I'm taking in myself too, like as Jun's speaking, as Rosa's speaking, just kind of taking a breath, recognizing where I'm at. And I really appreciated what you said, Jun, that our nervous system, yeah, it elevates and we can bring it back down. And it's its job to do that. And we do have some control over it. And I love that. It's a window into the nervous system, the breath. Yeah, so I'd say in the very first phases of a disaster, some of the top things that I see before smoke is even present, if it's a fire, are difficulties staying on task or remembering things, just a difficulty being present, basically, and that's really common. And I think the orientation and breath work and feeling our bodies, and giving yourself a little massage, all of those are such wonderful tools for just bringing ourselves back into the present. Like I was talking about with me a couple of days ago, just walking to my appointment, my mind was 20 different places all at once. And so that's, part of that is what creates the experience of not being able to be fully present. And part of it is because our brain is a little bit hijacked, just being aware of other things happening. And so that bringing ourselves back down with breath work or with orientation. And so that's one thing that I see very early on. And then, a lot of the pain, syndromes and anxiety, trouble sleeping is something I really commonly see. I start to see a lot, of course, with fire, a lot of smoke inhalation issues. So, like a dry or scratchy throat, trouble or tightness in the chest, trouble breathing, especially if you've had problems with your lung before. A cough can start for some people. Sinus issues, like Rose was talking about, some stuffiness or more allergy type of symptoms. And so those are things that I really commonly see, in people when there's a fire present, for sure. And that is, that's ubiquitous. Like, get so many questions about that across patient populations, about, how to protect our lungs.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'd love to make sure that we have time to for you each to just do either a quick demonstration of ways that you maybe work with your patients or clients, or ways that you have seen that have been beneficial and helpful in terms of relieving any of the symptoms that all three of you have described. I mean, we've seen, it's wide, it's across the board, whether it's things that are really related to the physical symptoms that can manifest from, chronic stress and anxiety, to, more things that have to do with our respiratory health from the smoke inhalation and things like that. And so, would love, either to have like a quick opportunity to demonstrate anything that maybe you found is helpful to teach, or even just to share some tips, that our viewers at home can maybe jot down, of like some helpful remedies that they can find at their, local market, or whether it's herbal medicine or teas or other things like that. And so I just would love to give space for that. And so, why don't we start first with you, Rose, just to mix it up a little bit, who has to go first. If I know you throughout shelter in place, you've been putting together a lot of really beautiful resources for people on how to instruct them on doing self-massage at home or some movement practices. And so anything that you'd love to demonstrate, you know, maybe we give ourselves each like 2 to 4 minutes to make sure we all have space to share some gems. But would love to turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks. I think I want to share a little acupressure for sinuses and also grounding. And but before I do that, I want to say that one of my favorite things related more to if you, well, it's good for everyone, but especially if you have swollen feet or have to sleep in your car or somewhere uncomfortable, to lay down with your legs on the wall if you are able to do that, or put them on a chair if your legs don't want to go up the wall. Is a really great way to relieve that pressure, and good way to relax. It's a really good thing to do before bed, or you're just too stressed out. Can really help relax the whole system. And then otherwise, I'll share 3 or 4 points for acupressure for sinuses. So the first one I want to share, I call like the whisker point, and it's right here. So it's right where your nose meets your face in here. And I'll hold this point on both sides and hold it kind of gently and just feel the tissue underneath your fingers. And you can press deeper and then come lighter and just explore where it feels good. And then if you start, you can keep your fingers pressed on the skin at the same point. Don't move over new skin, but start spreading the skin in different directions. Start moving the lymph and the sinus congestion underneath that. Just slowly, really slow little circles or spreading. And then come back to stillness and just hold a little more. Just see if you can feel any release. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Maybe try different directions. Maybe come in closer if that feels better, or spread out if that feels better. Depending on where you have congestion, it'll be a different area. You just hold all of these points for a couple minutes until it feels good, and then slowly release. Wipe it off. And then another point is right, so you follow your cheekbones. You can feel underneath your cheekbones, and there's a point down here. And I don't press on the point, but I'll press either a little up past the point on one side of the point or the other. And there's almost little notches for your fingers in those cheekbones, little places where they just like to rest. And I'm pushing in the direction kind of in and up towards my eyes. Putting pressure in there, see if that feels good. And maybe try a lot of pressure and then a little, and just adjust to what feels really good to your body. Just holding, feeling each side. So don't go so much at the bottom and either side. Come over here. And then I'll add this one in because jaw tension is so related to just tension in general, stress. So you can come right in front of your earlobe. This point right there. It's actually 3 points, but you can just hold one at a time. Here, and down here, and up here. I'm going through these a little quickly, but you can hold them all a little longer. And then another point for more sinuses and also headaches is up here. So it's right where like the end tip of the eyebrows. And I'm pushing up into the skull up here, to forehead bone. And that can feel really good, like where your glasses rest, yeah. With glasses, that could be especially nice. This feels so good to me right now. Yeah. So then you can wipe it off. Just do a little wipe. See how that feels. Take another deep breath and see if it feels a little clearer and easier to breathe. Just check back in. And then I'll do 1 point for the feet. So I'm not gonna, so on your foot, you have your, let's pretend this is my foot. It's my big toe and the second toe. So there's an area right below the pad of the big toe. Right, yeah, below the pad where it gets a little softer and the arch begins in between the big finger and the little finger and the second finger. And you can hold right there. And that point is called kidney 1. And it's where in acupuncture and acupressure meridian system, it's where all of the energy for the body enters from the earth. So it's our bubbling well, our spring of energy, and it's very grounding point. And when I massage my feet at night, I'll always hold this point. And just as the breath is a really good way to regulate the system, and orient, to take a deep breath, same way I'll use my feet to orient towards the present moment. My feet are always, almost always on the ground, and that connection I have with my feet to the ground and just coming back to that over and over and over again throughout the day, even when I'm not going through crises, has taught my system that I can return to it when I'm kind of freaking out and I can't find a presence or focus. I just go back and be like, okay, where are my feet? They're on the ground. Okay, and just like feel into my feet as it's one of my favorite resources. So those are my little tips for body care.
Yeah, thank you, Rose. Yeah, I love how, these are truly out-of-pocket practices, especially these, these different acupressure points that we can utilize, whether we're home or, if we are talking to some folks who are evacuated right now, like these are things that can be done anywhere. And just it takes only, I personally notice a shift of just not only like my breath feeling a little bit more clear, but just my mind feeling a little bit more clear. And I'm grateful you brought up this point on the foot as well, and the connection to like, all right, how can we orient to the fact that we are connected to the earth, and what a valuable resource that is as well, to have that grounding energy. So thank you. Jen, would love to hear from you next. Have some tools and tips that you find useful for your patients and for yourself as well during this type of challenge.
Yeah, I think the best thing I can add to the wonderful resources that Rosa and Jun are offering is some suggestions about ways that you can help take care of your lungs from an herbal supplemental type of lens. I guess starting with air filters, if you have the capacity to get an air filter, that is something that's incredibly helpful. A couple just points about air filters. My favorite type of air filter is a HEPA plus carbon filter. So it's 2 different filters in one, basically. One takes care of particulate matter, the HEPA, and one takes care of toxins, the carbon. So I like to get combos whenever possible, and they don't really work very well around corners, even if doors are open. And so the room that you're in most is a good place to have a filter. And you can also rotate it if you only have one, and try and keep windows closed, etc. And that'll at least keep the environment in your home where you're spending a lot of time sleeping, hopefully, or if you are in a different place, like in a hotel room. I know a lot of people have evacuated to hotel rooms right now. That can be really helpful. Masks that also have HEPA plus carbon, or any kind of mask to help cover your breathing apparatus, can be really helpful as well. But so beyond that, in lung health, things that are easy to access for the most part, and you can get in a lot of the natural pharmacies around here or online, NAC, that's N-acetylcysteine. And, these are all, if you have a lot of medical conditions or medications that you're on, it's always best to just check in with your doctor and make sure that it's okay. But N-acetylcysteine is very helpful in helping clear out the lungs, as well as vitamin C. So vitamin C is such a wonderful tool for smoke inhalation. Some great research actually on that, and such an easy thing for us to access. Vitamin C is great in that you can actually put a lot of vitamin C into your body if you go by different means, IV, etc. And I'm not suggesting you necessarily do that. My point is that the way that you'll know if you got too much vitamin C orally is if you get loose stools. So if you get loose stools, back off a little bit. You took too much, and you can kind of find a dose there that works for you. There are herbs and herbal remedies that can be quite helpful as well. Rosa and I actually were talking recently about one that we saw in the forest, Yerba Santa. There are others. Reishi is wonderful as a mushroom. It's a good lung tonic. I think, those two are maybe a little easier to access. And if you go into any of the herbal remedy stores, they're often able to kind of help you create something that's good for you too. So I really love herbs for lung support. There are other options that are more advanced. If you have an integrative medicine doctor and you have lung issues, you can talk to them too about other options for that. Then just quickly, some of my favorite things to use. My go-to for sleep really is not diet, but lifestyle change. So disconnecting from the things that cause your body to secrete cortisol at night. Like if you can just disconnect at a certain time from scrolling the internet and looking for updates, make sure that you have updates just coming through to your phone and that it's on, and you can then just set it down and go to bed at night. And try and do that for a good hour or so before you go to sleep at night. And do something that's calming to your nervous system. The nervous system loves routine. So if you have a bedtime routine that you've used in the past, you can use that, and it gives a signal to your brain that it is time to go to sleep now. And if at all possible in your current environment, try and stick with a similar bedtime routine too. I think, June was mentioning that a lot of people are staying up late, and I totally get that. I have to fight that tendency myself. But again, like sleep is a very neurological process, and there's a memory around it. And so if you're pushing beyond when you're normally going to sleep, you get this big cortisol spike, and your body says, okay, I guess I'm up for a reason. I'm going to put out a bunch of cortisol, and your melatonin goes down. So it's kind of fighting your ability to go to sleep. Beyond that, I do find herbs and supplements very helpful in really stressful times to be able to just bring things down a little bit, enough that you can practice breath and, calm yourself in going to sleep. Passion flower, I love passion flower, hops, valerian, California poppy. There are so many great herbs. I have a particular favorite supplement that I don't know that would be necessarily good for everyone, but love Integrative Therapeutics Cortisol Manager. And it's one of my favorite things for just like, it's not sedating or habit forming. It's just, it's a little bit of extra calm for your nervous system. It brings that cortisol level down a little bit. So I really like all of those as options. And, immune system right now boosting, also a wonderful idea. Just the vitamin C will help with that. Other vitamins like zinc and vitamin A can be really helpful. And there are some herbs that can be really helpful for that as well, like elderberry or astragalus, for example.
Awesome. So many amazing herbs and supplements, and I love your suggestions too of just getting the air purifier, or making sure we're wearing the right masks. I know we've all been wearing masks for a while now with COVID, but kind of shifting to making sure that we've got that extra filter protection for our masks now. A quick question for you, Jen, before we go to June to have her give some demonstration. One of our viewers asked you to repeat and spell out NAC.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, I can also post it maybe after, but okay. N-acetyl, and that's ACE. Let's see if I can do this in my head. ACETYL, cysteine. So Cysteine. I
Excellent.
think I got all of that right in
That's
my
impressive.
verbal. Thank you. I think it's actually one of my skills, maybe. We'll see if I actually got that right. I'll go back and watch the recording. Someone can tell me. So it's called NAC a lot, but N-acetylcysteine is what you can look for. It's a precursor to something called glutathione in our body. And it is a wonderful, it helps as well as a mucolytic, kind of helps bring things up, and an expectorant. So it breaks down that kind of gunk that you get in your lungs and helps bring it back up. It's a great antioxidant for your lungs too.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, well, and to our viewers, we don't have a chance to respond to all of your questions through this live panel. We will be sure to update the comments on this live stream, so we'll be able to check in with all our panelists to update questions afterwards as well. So keep the questions coming, and we'll get back to you on answering all of them. So Jun, would love to turn it over to you to share what your favorite out-of-pocket practices are for people during situations like that, and yeah, I would love to give you a few moments to share.
Thank you. So I guess I'll just start with just if you have a moment and you find yourself overstimulated and you just want to check in with your breath to, like we said, regulate that nervous system. And again, the breath is like the remote control for your nervous system, so you're in control. So if you're sitting there at your desk or driving, first thing I would say, notice how your belly's moving with your breath. So just right now as you're watching, how's your belly moving or your diaphragm moving with your breath? If you're inhaling and the belly is expanding, that's good. If, it's just falling back on the exhale, inhale, the belly's expanding, exhaling, the belly's deflating like a balloon. And you just feel that. So you're just tuning into your breath and you're feeling how your body's moving with your breath. So you're just there with your breath, and no one would even know that you're doing that. You can be on a call doing that. You can be driving while you're doing that, but you're just noticing your breath while you're, living your life. So that would be the first thing I would get people to do, to notice just how you're breathing as you're going about your day, and keep checking in. With the inhale, is my belly expanding? With the exhale, is it falling back? Because a lot of people breathe that opposite way. So the natural way of breathing, inhale, the belly expands, exhale, it falls back. If you feel overstimulated and you have a minute and you can just take a break and you can just kind of do one quick thing to get your nervous system back on track, I would say those 10 deep breaths. Like I said, we go about our days breathing really up in our chest, really shallowly, especially if we have masks on, especially if we're inside all day. We don't tend to take deep, open breaths. So I would say maybe start your morning like this, or maybe have your lunch break with this breath work, or at the end of the day, do this 10 breaths. So any chance you get, it only takes a minute, 2 minutes, maybe. So I'll just lead us through that. Maybe we can just try it. So you're just sitting there at your desk, you have a minute, you just got off a phone call. I'm just going to take 10 deep breaths to kind of get myself back on track, calm down, regulate my nervous system, clear my mind a moment. So I can tune into, what the next step is, or, so anyways, so you're just sitting up nice and tall, your spine's uplifted, and you just want the top of your head in line with the perineum, or with the core channel breaths, and just start with an exhale like a sigh. Inhale through the nose. Let it go, make that HA sound on the exhale. Deeply in, exhale through the mouth. Again, deeply in, feel the belly, feel the chest, and then exhaling through the mouth. I can just do 5 more. You want to fill the belly up first, then fill up the chest, and then letting go. Fill up the belly, fill up the rib cage, and then letting it go. Let's just do one more. So that's just one thing you can do on the fly in the middle of your day. Just don't do this when you're driving or near water. And then I think it's my time now, but I would just add one last thing. If you're ready for a breathwork practice, like Dr. Jen said, if you're ready for a routine, if you're ready to do something regularly, not just out of practice or out of pocket throughout your day, I would start my morning or end my day with breath work. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes. It can literally be a full practice in 10 minutes, less than 15 minutes. That's 1% of your day. Just get your lungs healthy, expand those intercostal muscles, those ribs, and flush your body with clean air, flush your body with oxygen, give yourselves that energy, that energy it needs to repair itself, to that immune system to restore itself. And so seek out a breathwork practice. Wim Hof method is great, but there's tons of breathing methods out there. I don't think we have time for me to go through the Wim Hof breath right now, but seek out a breathwork practice. And it's super simple. Everyone can do it. There's so many different varieties out there. And it will, the research is out now that, I think James Nestor just put out a book on breathwork. He's on a podcast with Joe Rogan, but there's so much benefits to breathwork. So seek out a regular breathwork practice, or just do the 10 breaths in the morning and then 10 breaths at night. Yeah. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Thank you to you all. I'm so grateful for this panel today because we're feeling it. This is challenging times, and so to take this hour to do these practices with you all, to learn with you, to explore and discover ways that we can grow our resiliency and find ways to navigate these really challenging times. There are so many tools, and I wish that we had more time because I could just keep on going and learning these practices from you all. But I invite you, our viewers at home, if any of these are resonating and you'd like more, if you want more instruction, if you want more resources, comment in the Facebook thread, send us an email through our website. We are in the process of developing even more virtual resources for people as we're navigating wildfire season in the era of COVID. This is a new situation where we're usually being able to offer a lot of in-person clinics for people who are evacuated, for our first responders who are on the front lines. And so we're coming up with multiple contingency plans on how we can share the benefit of all of these integrative health and medicine tools with all of you out there and with our communities, so that we can get through this together. And just really want to thank all of our panelists and thank all of our viewers out there. If you're interested in getting involved, now is the time. We are looking for more volunteers, whether you're here in Sonoma County or in California or even any part of the country. We have June coming in from New Mexico right now. And so that's the beauty of these platforms, is that we can connect no matter where we are in the world. And so if you're interested in getting involved, please visit our website, integrativehealersactionnetwork.org. This video will be living on our website as well. And so if you have friends or neighbors or family that you'd like to share these resources with, please go to our website, and you can share the link to that for the video directly from there too. So thank you so much to you all, Jen, June, Rose. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for this organization to be able to offer tools and resources in this way. So wishing everyone out there to be safe and healthy, and we'll get through this together. We're a strong community, and we'll do this together. So sending a lot of love and gratitude to you all. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.